Also, thanks to everybody who's taken the time to attend. I know it's a busy time of year for most clubs and club directors with tryouts coming up, so I appreciate you taking 30 minutes to listen to my story. With regards to my own personal history, similar to, I suppose, a lot of British coaches, I first came over through MLS camps. So it was MLS camps, and it changed to North American soccer camps. That was in the summer of 2008. I'd actually been out in the summer of 2003, but I'd only done like 5 weeks in Colorado and Wyoming. But this was what they called the Player Development Officer role. So they brought us over on an H2B. I did the summer camps, and then I was sent up to Grays Lake up in the north suburbs. So I started my coaching career in the US with a club which is no longer there, Grays Lake Galaxy, and worked there in fall 2008. Then 2009 I went home because the visa run out, came back I think later in the spring, again kind of back and forth for a couple of years, and then in 2010 Grays Lake actually offered me the job of director of coaching, which came with the H1B visa, which was the 3-year visa. So that allowed me to have a little bit more stability. I was still living in family housing at that point, mind you, taking advantage of all the comforts of the family. The Gallagher's who put me up very kindly for what they thought was going to be 10 weeks, but actually turned into about 2 years, I think it was in the end. So I progressed through Grays Lake for a couple of years. Then around 2014, I spoke with a colleague, Jamie Martin, who was running the neighbouring club, Warren United. And we had similar issues and challenges with regards to the two clubs. So we made the decision to merge the clubs to form a new club called FC Lake County. It was designed to hopefully give us more than one team at each age, give us more opportunities for development for the local Lake County community. I think we did a decent job with that. It was definitely a challenge, but I think in the end it went well. Around that time, I was trying to also get experience in the college game. So I volunteered at the Judson Eagles, an NAIA school based out of Belgium. The second year, I was actually the paid assistant. So I was there for 2 years before taking on the head coach's job at the College of Lake County, which for me was based in Grays Lake. So and I didn't have to drive up to Elgin and then across to Grays Lake, and gave me an opportunity to be a head coach of a college program, albeit at the junior college level. So did that for a year, and then you'll see just down the bottom there the positions that I'm currently moving on from. I'm assistant coach at Purdue Northwest, which is a D2 school down in Hammond, Indiana. And I've been working with Chicago Rush and Crystal Lake Force in a technical director player development role for the last couple of years. But as I say, at the moment, I'm currently looking for a new role, trying to find a new challenge, which is not the best time to be doing that. So that's really my experience, my employment. With regards to education, I've got just about every certificate that they'll give me. Got a master's in performance coaching that I got last year from University of Stirling. I've got the A license through US Soccer, master coach and soccer leader diploma from United Soccer Coaches, which was the NSCAA obviously, and I'm currently in the process of going through the UEFA B license with the Scottish FA. So
you're busy. There's no question you're busy.
Relatively busy for somebody who currently doesn't have a job. I'm finding a lot of things to do. So
yeah.
But the pictures on the right there are really just experiences I've had in and around the world. So as part of my role at Russia, I was really fortunate that they gave me a position on the national select, as they called it. And that when we got to go to Italy with the 2005 girls national select. So that's me at the AC Milan Academy. We were there for 2 days, I think.
Nice.
The other one is Master Coach Diploma. I went to Philadelphia Union. Again, got to see the school that they've got there. Got to watch sessions with all the age groups. One below that is Celtic, which, for those who know me, will know that is not my team. But again, they were very very good in that they let me come in, watch academy sessions, and that's my mate Tony Massey who got me in there to see that. And then I think the one on the right, that's Costa Rica. That was last year when, again, National Select went to Costa Rica. So those were great experiences, great opportunities that I had. I really appreciated them.
Great places to visit for sure. Hopefully you got to see some things other than soccer. Hopefully you got to Costa Rica is a great place to explore too.
Costa Rica was brilliant. Yeah, I loved it. Loved Costa Rica. I actually really enjoyed Italy a lot more than I thought I would. I thought I would be into the soccer side. Going to the San Siro was always a dream of mine. So we went to see AC Milan, Chievo. But it was actually more so than that. Venice was probably the highlight of the trip for me. And I'm not so cultured I can remember the name of the square there. But just sitting in the square, listening to music, watching people go by, that was probably the highlight for me.
Nice. Awesome. Well, who do you regard as people who've kind of had an influence? Who are some of the mentors that you've kind of had during your coaching journey?
It was actually a good time to get this question. So it's something I've been thinking a lot about, and it's somewhere I really almost feel like I've missed out, because when I started thinking about it, I really started thinking about what a mentor is. I think the words thrown around a lot is there's maybe a misconception as to what a mentor truly is. In that sense, there's probably only one guy that really sprung to mind, and he's the gentleman in the dark glasses in the picture, the main picture there with the boys who are U19 at that point and are now juniors in college or sophomores in college, I think they are. So that was like the first U19 I ever had, but his name's Mike Rocco. And Mike was the president of Grays Lake Galaxy when I took over as director of coaching. So, in all fairness, Mike took a gamble on me. I had no experience of running a club. I didn't fully understand what was involved in running a club, in all honesty. And Mike, saw something in me and invested in me. So he got me my H1B, or helped me get my H1B. He, helped me get through my licenses. He, helped me get through the NSCAA courses, and also set up the whole green card process for me with backing from the club. So, with regards to a mentor who, truly changed my life, I think Mike would be the main one that springs to mind. The other two pictures there, Graham Muir is the bottom left. I don't know if Murray's on, but Murray knows Graham from back in Dumfries. Graham's I suppose you can almost say a local celebrity. He's been working in the youth soccer scene over there for 20 to 30 years at least. But I moved to Graham's club Greyston when I was maybe 14 from another club. And the one thing that I really remember about Graham was the way that he made you feel with what he said. So it wasn't always, textbook. It wasn't really talking tactics or essentially making you a better player through technical activities. It was just the way that he would use his words to make you feel like 10 feet tall. So that was why I included him there, because he was the first coach that I really had who did that for me. And when I think back to that, that's something I want to try and replicate within my own coaching. And then the third picture is Bobby Clark from Notre Dame. Now, I don't claim to know Bobby at all, beyond attending his coaching clinic that he would do at Notre Dame every year. So I went down there, I got there early for once, and I got talking to him just for 20, 30 minutes, got talking to him. I was like, this guy's impressive. But the real thing that impressed me was when the players came out and the aura that he had, almost like the respect that they showed him and the way that they spoke to him and just the way that he carried himself. It wasn't the technical, tactical side. It wasn't the clinic. I couldn't tell you one thing that he did, but I can vividly remember, how he carried himself around that environment and how everybody reacted to him. And again, if you think about, the coach that you want to be, he's certainly got to be up there for me.
Was he?
Sprung in mind.
Was he was at Aberdeen, if I remember, wasn't he? Was he
was
there at the same time as Sir Alex?
Yeah, he was. He was there with Sir Alex. He was also involved with Scotland. He was a Scotland goalkeeper. He's led quite a career. He's been in Zimbabwe. I think he coached in Zimbabwe. He was the Dartmouth coach, I believe, before he was the Notre Dame coach. Now he's back in Scotland, actually. And they named the field after him at the New Aberdeen training complex.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so he's well regarded wherever he goes.
Definitely one of the great college coaches for sure.
Yeah. The other names that I highlighted, obviously, Colin. We talked about it. Colin Barnes, was our instructor on the grassroots course. And Colin is somebody I've got to know more as obviously we've progressed through that process. When we first met Colin and you go into that classroom setting, like, he challenges you and questions you and questions to the point you're like, please stop asking me questions. It's like exhausting. But now that I've been through that process and now I know him better, I'm like, well, that was some of the best coaching or teaching that I've actually experienced myself in one of these courses. So
yeah, no, he's great. I chat with him a fair bit. He's a mentor of mine as well, and is teaching in England actually, which is amazing. An American, grown up in that. I'm not exactly sure if he grew up in the South specifically, but now he's teaching football in England. So it's quite an amazing journey for him. So yeah, good one.
I just included a few other names that might be on the call, so I thought they would feel left out if I didn't put them on there.
Yeah, it's nice of you to put my name up there, even though I told you to do that. So that's okay. That's all right.
I couldn't have you interview me and not have you on the list.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's part of the deal. That's true. So why do you value coaching education? Obviously, we spend a lot of time together within the coaching education realm. So why do you value it so much? And especially for new and current coaches, obviously we've got a lot of coaches on the call here today, but why do you think it's so important?
I mean, for me, it's changed how I do everything with regards to coaching. Obviously, experience is a main driver of how you improve. But for me personally, the coach education process is just as important. So when I started thinking about it again, what I want to try and outline is, for me, education's got a number of different areas. It's can be formal, so it can be your licenses. It can be non-formal, which is more like conventions and clinics, and then it can be informal, which is just your everyday experiences, or even conversations you have with other coaches and that side of it. So I suppose I'm more talking here to formal education with regards to the licenses, diplomas, and academic qualifications that I've been through. If I think back to 2004, say, when I was at university, to what I do now, it's night and day. I've changed pretty much everything I would have done back in 2004 to what I would do now, and it's been a gradual process. All of the licenses and certificates I do, you take something from it that can be applied to your context. I'm not saying everything I've done is been changed the way that I approach the whole coaching, but I think it's been really, really important to me through my own journey. Not just the instructors and the content that they give you, but also the people that you meet and the experiences that you have with those people, and what you can learn from each other as much as what you can learn from the instructors.
Yeah, and especially right now, I mean, I see that in terms of the COVID-19 webinar experience. I mean, we've all been parts of lots of webinars, whether it be on panels or just working with different groups. And maybe just talk about those ones. Yeah,
I put it there of, it's something I threw myself into, having the time and, wanting to invest in myself. It's something I've thrown myself into the last 11 weeks. And I've done, I think 62 webinars is what I counted now. Again, some are better than others. Some you'll take more than others. Some are more relevant to your situation than others. So, I read a great quote from, I think it was Stevie Grieve, who's a scout back in Scotland for Dundee United, and he's big in social media. And it really hit home that just being on webinars does not equal learning. And I was like, I've done 62 of these things, and what have I actually learned? So I went back to all my notes, and I went back to the presentations, and when I've revisited it, though, the three I put there were probably the best ones that I've been on, and the ones that I took most out of, really for the detail that they went into, that professional environment that I don't really have exposure to. So those were probably the top three for me that I went back to and really learned the most from. But I'm still revisiting it all because I have fallen into that trap of just sitting there, watching for an hour, take a load of notes, on to the next one. So
maybe I know we chatted a little bit about this, and I thought this was a great idea when you were kind of dissecting the webinars you were on. I think you were making like little sheets so you can have 2 or 3 takeaways. And I think it was a great practice because we don't do that enough. You know, we sit on a webinar, we listen, we take notes, but then we put it away.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure we reference it. Yeah.
Let's try to go back through and just, like say, make notes, not just on the content, but also on because we're involved in coach education, the presenting skills. You know, what is the presenter doing? Now, I'm also very aware that I'm falling into the trap of a lot of talking. I've maybe wrote down about a lot of these guys, but the one thing I did try to do with the presentation is break down the text and not just have big, chunks of text and pictures that don't really mean anything. I wanted to try and, for me, it means more if it's a story. Like if it's anecdotal, or if it's a story, or somebody sharing their experience, means more than a graph or a table or a big chunk of text taken from a document from somewhere. So these pictures here were just examples of coach education I've gone through in the last year, and all very, very different experiences. So the grassroots instructor license, very coach-centered, a lot of discussion, a lot of breakouts, a lot of questioning, a lot of back and forth amongst the candidates and the instructors. And I think I told you this at the time. The next week I went on the UEFA B. I went back to Scotland, started the UEFA B, and it was much different. It was more, there was certainly discussions, but you go in, you have your lecture, you go and play on the field for 6 to 7 hours, then you come back, do another lecture, then you go back to your hotel and you do your materials, your session plans and whatnot that you need for the next day. Yeah, so that was very different. And then the third one was even more extraordinary, with Raymond Verheyen at the Football Coach Evolution, because it was like, if you look at that like a spectrum from grassroots to Raymond Verheyen, it's quite a change where he treats his classroom like a changing room or a dressing room, as he calls it, and you are sitting there and you are dialed into everything he's saying. You are switched on because he might come to you and you have to be ready, And I feel like we sometimes, again, webinars or classrooms, you sit there and maybe you get a little bit, you daydream and your mind starts to wander. In that classroom, not one person was wandering. Everybody was just ready in case he turned to you. Yeah. So I thought it was really interesting because I probably took the most from that one in consideration to a lot of them because I was so switched on.
Yeah, and you're scared to get kicked out.
Scared to get
kicked out. Because that could happen.
Scared to
I've
get
heard
kicked
stories.
Out. Scared to get into it with them. The problem I had, and I think I shared this with you, I came back from that course and I went on to run a 77 module, a grassroots module in Godley, I think it was. But Paul Jennison was there with me, and I'd come out of that where he was, very on top of everybody. So someone was late to the 77 module, and I was like, right, I'm Raymond Verheyen. I'm not having this. This is ridiculous. I started going down that road, and I was like, no, that's not. This isn't the US soccer approach. It's got to be much more coach friendly than that. So.
Sure, awesome. Well, before we talk about the project you're working on, just maybe chat quickly about, obviously you're doing a D license right now down in Bloomington, and it's kind of it's stopped, primarily because of COVID. So maybe talk a little bit about what's going on there before we get into the projects you've been working on.
Yeah, for sure. So again, just a brief overview on some of my thoughts on the grassroots licenses. And for grassroots licenses, I would include the D license here. I don't have enough exposure to the A license, the B licenses, the updated C license to really have an opinion on that at the moment. But with regards to the grassroots and the D license, I think what they do well is they put a process in place that is backed by research and theory from the academic world, but also with what coaches have learned practically. So that's something that really appeals to me. It's not just the ideas of one person, potentially from another country, coming into the US and trying to input what they did there into a very different culture. It's people from the US who've had experience throughout various levels of soccer in the US, and also backing it up with theory from the academic world. So that really appeals to me, because I think it gives it more validity in the approach.
Sure.
I'll not go through each of these, but beyond that, I think for the classroom environment, it's similar to the grassroots instructor that we took, where they really try to involve you in the process. And we as instructors try to involve the candidates. It's more, try to make it more interactive, more engaging. You have your setup, like I put the classroom there, because you have a setup that's maybe different than previously, where you try to either have breakout tables or a U-shape, or mix up so that all the candidates can see each other, talk to each other, and it's not so much a lecture style. And that fits much better with how adults actually learn. So I like that side of it. And then with regards to the methodology, I think it's good for coaches who are just starting out, because it's relatively easy to understand. Play, practice, play is exactly that. There's you don't have to go too far off the path to find your own drills and activities. A lot of that is given to the candidates, which creates a uniformity, I suppose, in the approach, and also gives you, with regards to the keywords and the questions, like terminology that can be used across the nation, as opposed to a lot of time when coaches may use different phrases and words for different aspects of the game. So those are probably the main ones.
Yeah, definitely the consistency is certainly, obviously, we're living this all the time, the consistency of the language, and just talking about how this is the US soccer way. It's not the only way. There's lots of different ways of doing things, but it's what US soccer is doing right now. So we appreciate all your work you're doing with that. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in your life now. I know you did a study, which was really interesting, working with some of the coaches here in Illinois. Tell us a little bit about how that went.
Yeah, so as part of my master's, so for my MSc in performance coaching at Stirling, the final project is a thesis, 8,000 word thesis, and you get to choose what you want to do it on. So I'd previously done a study on coaching behavior, which I really enjoyed, and more importantly, I got a good mark for it, so I thought that was probably a good line of inquiry to go down. So I approached some of my colleagues in Illinois and asked them if they would mind if I recorded them, analysed their behaviours, and then discussed how their behaviours related to the literature and the theory of how coaches should behave. So I took 4 of the guys, watched them twice through the summer of, would it be 2019? I think it was last year, yeah. Twice through the summer of 2019, coded all their behaviours using the coach analysis and intervention system, which is an academic tool which breaks it down into 23 primary behaviours, which you can then categorise into 8 behaviours without going into it too much. And the table there essentially shows what the results were for each of those coaches. Now the names are pseudonyms before anybody tries to guess who they are. But some of the interesting things that came out of it, so for example, Coach, what do I call him? Coach Colin? Coach Craig. Coach Craig passed his A license most recently in 2019. Now, there's a link to that where he has the highest percentage of questioning. And when I watched his session, even just observation without breaking it down with coding, he was much more player-centered is maybe, the best way to put it, where he was in conversations with them, having discussions with individuals as the game's going on. He was questioning. More importantly, he was then re-questioning, if you want to use that term, and adding on and layering on. Whereas even me personally sometimes fall in the trap of, you ask a question, you get the answer, you're like, all right, let's move on. Yeah. He was very good at progressing the conversation and getting that deeper understanding. And it really made me think, is that linked to the more updated way that US soccer are running the courses? Because the other 3 courses did the licenses around the time that I did it, which was 2014 for myself, 2012 for two of the guys, and 2015, I think, for the other guy. And it was a very different procedure and process with regards to how you were expected to coach.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the recommendations I made was, I think there needs to be some sort of continuing professional development within US soccer, so that even guys like myself can get that information and, I suppose, revisit some of the points and see what updates are coming through from the federation. Because most of these guys had some awareness of it, but not a full understanding to then implement into their own coaching. So that was probably the main thing that I thought came out of it. And I'm not sure why US soccer don't do that, because UEFA do it, other governing bodies do it, and also if you look in other professions like teaching, nursing, lawyers, they all have to do a certain amount of CPD hours to keep their jobs every year. So my question is, why don't coaches?
Yeah, I know it's something that was a big part of it a few years ago, and I think the monitoring was very difficult just because of so many people being in the old system. So I know Marek and I have chatted a little bit about it, and we've talked with US Soccer. I think it's going to happen at some point. I think there's a lot of things going on. So with
I also know I'm in the minority. I'm somebody who would probably happily do it, whereas a lot of coaches like getting the certificate and like, all right, I'm done with licensing now. And again, for me, when I came through the process, I thought I'll get to the A license, that'll be me, I'll be set for life, I'll know everything I need to know, and off I go. And that was 6 years ago, and I'm still trying to get more and more and become better and better through various different organizations and governing bodies.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, because I think a lot of people do reach that top part, the top part of the pyramid, so to speak, and they think, I'm done. But I think now you're seeing more and more coaches, coaching educators who are going through that, just like Coach Craig, who is doing more and more to get better, which I think is important. Was there any these other guys, have they done much in terms of furthering their coaching education?
None of them. They've maybe done some non-formal or informal. So I think they've been to conventions and they've done clinics, but they hadn't done any more licensing. They hadn't done any more further qualifications since they got the A license.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting point that I could, discuss. So the good thing was it gave me plenty to discuss within my thesis, which was good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So yeah, if there's anybody out there, we've got a good little group here of about a dozen or so. If you have any questions for Liam, feel free to throw those in so we can keep busy with it. So in terms of things that you're working on now, what's kind of the avenue you're looking at in terms of your projects?
Do you mean beyond trying to find a new job?
Sure, that too.
Beyond that, the challenging thing for me is, obviously at this time, trying to find employment. As a lot of people are going through something similar, whether it's in coaching or outside of coaching. It is tough. Like, it is really, really difficult. So I suppose, trying to add value and continue to develop myself. So when that opportunity comes, I'm ready. So one of the things I'm working on is my own website. Off the back of that study, trying to develop a way where I can go out and help coaches within their own environment. So it makes it, try to go out, record them, help them reflect, and then review the session or whatever it is that we're doing. Maybe it's a game, and then help them to work on a development plan from there. Because beyond the study that I did, if I think about my own career and even I know there the lack of mentors, I think that a lot of people have the same problem. They don't know where to turn, they don't know where to go, and they don't get that support from the club and even maybe the directors, because the director's attention is always getting pulled somewhere else. And Adam, you've been a director, I've been a director. That coach education is not always at the forefront of what you do.
Sure.
So it's trying to give directors of clubs and clubs in general, a resource that they can use. Can they use me to come out, work with the coaches, help them develop, and it just makes it a little bit more individual rather than one approach fits all. Here, send me a couple of videos and I'll give you some feedback. Probably the biggest, we open about this, the biggest mistake I've made so far, not so much with this, but in my previous role at Rush, you really have to get to know the coaches you're working with before you start analysing them and trying to help them develop. Because if you don't, you're just a guy who turns up with a camera and is potentially seen as a threat to their job, Here's me with my camera and my notebook, and instantly as a coach, your back is up and you're like, right, I need to really try and put on a show here where I will really need to work on making the whole process more approachable, more helpful, and better for the candidates or the coaches I'm working with. So that's probably the main one I'm working on just now. Other things there, again, I'm trying to work on my own game model. So a lot of these webinars have been focused on game models and principles of play and sub-principles, and again, got me thinking I need to go into more depth on that. I have session plans and I have ideas on how I want to play the game, but actually on the field, I need to do a better job of really diving into what I want to do with a team when I do return to coaching. And then just improving analysis as well. It's a good time to watch games, whether it's professional, whether it's teams I've coached before, watch games, go back, and I've got trials to Coach Payne, an academy soccer coach, Tactical Pad, Instat, LinkedIn Premium, basically anyone who would give me a free trial. So
there's a lot of free trials. There's a lot of free trials right now. Yeah, for sure. So
if I had to pick one, Coach Payne is unbelievable. And the guys have been incredibly helpful. Joe Boyle at Coach Payne, huge help. He sat with me for 2 different hour sessions to talk me through how to use it. I'm still nowhere near the level I need to be on it, but I can at least put together some videos. So.
Yeah. So is that primarily video and then diagramming on the videos? That's primarily what they do.
It's probably the main one that's used in the Premier League now. It's the main one that's used. They have an MLS package, which is one of the reasons I've been working on Chicago Fire videos, because you can put the logos on without having to do it yourself. It's all preset for you. You just click and it's ready to go. So it's a really good piece of software. It's very expensive. That's why I'm just using the free trial just now. But.
For sure. Well, certainly, I know we've got a few people here, certainly in the chat. Keep us busy. If there's anything you've got to ask Liam in terms of questions or anything else, and obviously now these are kind of your interest areas and goals for you. Maybe chat a little bit about that.
Yeah, these are, as I was going through the process of putting this together, these are just some of the courses that I'm either currently on or hoping to be on in the next, depending on what happens, obviously the pandemic, the next 6 months to 3 to 5 years, trying to plan a little ahead. Now, what I should probably know is I was very fortunate in my initial coach education journey in that Mike, Grayslake, and then FC Lake County supported me financially to get those licenses and diplomas, which I know is a barrier for a lot of coaches. So I appreciate that. I was really fortunate in those terms. The Masters I picked up myself, the UEFA B I picked up myself. These courses here are ultimately dependent on finance, or where I'm going to be working and living.
Sure.
But in an ideal scenario, these are some of the courses I'd like to do. I'd really like to get through the UEFA A and the Elite Youth license, and I've got vision, ideas of grandeur of doing a PhD at some point. But
That's
both
great.
my wife and my mum tell me that is a terrible, terrible idea. We'll see if that ever happens, but I think it's something I'd really enjoy.
Well, just real quickly, what about the UEFA B? So where do you stand in that journey right now in terms of your development and where you're going with that?
Yeah, UEFA B, the UEFA B moved online the assignment part was online anyway. So they also have now given us the ability to upload video sessions for our assessment if we want. So they've outlined all the criteria you need, and if we upload the videos by December 18th, I think it is, they'll assess our videos as opposed to having to go back to Scotland to attend in person. They were actually going to do that before the pandemic, so that was in the works from the convention last year for US-based coaches who maybe can't go back. Now, for me, I was going to go back anyway, because it's a good chance to see my family, and also I like the networking aspect of attending the courses in person. So I was hoping to go back anyway. But yeah, I've still got to pass the assessment, so that's where I'm at with that.
So that's the final piece. What's the assessment process? What would you have to do for that?
If you go back to Scotland, it's 4-day course, I think. Then you coach twice, I believe. If you do it through the video platform, I think it's 4 sessions you need to upload, and then they'll take a look at them and go from there. Okay. So I think I could be wrong on the 4 videos, but I think that's what they were talking about. Because the other thing they did that was nice, and maybe for other US-based coaches who are thinking about going that route, they allowed us to go to the convention in Baltimore for the tutorial days. So they didn't make us go back to the UK for 3 days, for that weekend that they have. They allowed us to do it. We just had to write a report off of the back of the sessions in Baltimore.
That's really good. Yeah, because I know they were all there. Yeah, and you had a few meetings with them when you were there?
Yeah, they had a whole schedule of events that they put together. So there was a CPD event the day before. So there was a TPD event the day before the convention started for coaches in the US who needed to get their 15 hours to be able to keep their A or their B license. I had signed up for that because I was in town early, so I went to that. It was really good. And then the next few days they covered, again, performance analysis. Malcolm Mackay did one on football development, I think it was, or I could have that one confused with someone else. Greg Patterson was there, who oversees the whole of coach education for the Scottish FA. I think Brian McLaughlin, who runs the performance schools, was there. And Andy Gold, who I think he's either sport or football development is his title. So.
Awesome. That's great. Well, we got a couple more minutes. I mean, we've said 30 to 40 minutes. We're right at 38, so that's pretty good.
Good.
Any questions? Who can fire in a question if there's anything? Here we go. We've got one coming in here. So Marek's knocking it in. Go ahead, Katie. I think we just got it. I know she just left for a second.
No, I'm good. It says, Liam, you are currently on UEFA B course and working as a licensed instructor for U.S. Soccer Federation. Can you share some similarities and differences, if any, between the I can't say that word, methodologies in coaching education culture?
Yeah, for sure. So as I alluded to before, last year when I came off the grassroots license and then went straight over to UEFA B, it was quite a change of approach within the two. I think US soccer, for coaching courses at least, has moved in a direction of being very interactive and getting you engaged with the material as opposed to just delivering it to you and hoping that it sticks. I felt with the UEFA B, when we went back, it was more lecture based. Here's a whole load of slides, here's a whole load of information, hoping that some of it went through. And there was breakout areas. We did have to do a presentation on the Scottish Cup final, Celtic v Hearts last year. But I would say in terms of coach education, the US soccer approach is much more engaged with the candidates, I think.
That's good. Awesome. Well, if anybody else has got anything to jump in, feel free. We'll stick around for a few more minutes, but want to appreciate your time. And Katie, thanks for manning the question or two. So we appreciate that. But, we're going to continue with this series each Wednesday at 4:00. So hopefully you guys can join us. But again, Liam, thanks. It was really good information. And I think as we move forward during this time, it looks like we're getting closer and closer to maybe getting out onto the field and doing some videoing at some point here pretty soon.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, just to sum up, I really appreciate you inviting me on. Obviously, it's good to be able to do these things again. It's a bit of a challenge, Delivering a webinar isn't something that we've all had to do. I've done a few with Rush, and I've done a few in my role at Crystal Lake. But it's good. It's a little test, just to try and outline your ideas and get your thoughts across to others. So I really appreciate that opportunity. I've put my email there in the website if anyone wants to go on. Email more so that if anybody needs assistance with anything, or anybody just even wants to have a chat about coaching at this time. I know with tryouts it can be a stressful time, and some people need a little bit more support, then my email's there. Reach out, and I'll happily find the time to speak to anyone who may need the help, or potentially even meet up when we can actually do so.
That's great. We appreciate it, Liam. Thanks everybody for attending, and feel free to reach out to Liam. You've got the information there. If you can't get hold of him, get hold of me, and I'll get hold of him. So either way, we'll do it. So thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time.